This is a summary of the McCain-Palin Secret Energy Plan. It has an estimated release date of February 2009. You won't find this information anywhere else due to its sensitivity. Just some background on the plan. Both the candidates have stated that Vice President Palin will have her own portfolio, and one of those will be energy. Governor Palin has stated many times that she plans to expand the powers of the office of the Vice President, similar to what Vice President Cheney has already accomplished. And both candidates have emphasized that their common characteristic is to be a maverick, and their energy plan will be a maverick plan as well. The plan requires the cooperation from the U.S. automobile companies, who would respond quickly to an incentivized plan considering their current financial condition, which is poor. At this early stage, there are many versions, alternatives, and details under study. The following outline is a consensus version at this time, so you could expect some changes in the future. The working name for the plan at this time is Drill Baby Drill, and the goal is to eliminate dependence on foreign crude oil, which you've heard many times. The plan will have two parts. One will be public, and one will be classified, and therefore you will not see it. It'll be classified top secret or higher due to its sensitivity. What are the highlights of the plan? $6 per gallon gasoline, phase out of cars with engines with more than 4 cylinders, imposition of Governor Palin's high oil taxes that have been so successful in Alaska to all oil pumped in the United States, construction of nuclear power plants immediately, new construction of new power plants immediately, probably the HTGR design, which is a high temperature gas design not requiring water, which tends to get too hot, explodes, etc. The classified section would be to prepare to occupy and manage the Saudi and Nigerian oil fields. All this would be managed as part of the expanded powers of Vice President Palin and her expanded role as Vice President. So what is the basic problem? The basic problem is that the U.S. crude oil production is about 1.85 billion barrels of crude oil per year. We also import 3.66 billion barrels per year. Our total U.S. oil reserves, whether being actively pumped or inactive, are about 26 billion barrels. So if we stopped importing oil and just pumped the oil we have, we would run out of oil in 4 years and 8 months. So obviously just doing that wouldn't work. So a rough test on the severity of the problem. Right now the average mileage of a U.S. car is about 23 miles per gallon. The average mileage of a European car, this is an average of all cars on all the highways, is 43 miles per gallon. If we instantly converted every U.S. car to an European average car mileage, 43 miles per gallon, our annual crude oil demand would drop from 5.51 billion barrels to 2.95 billion barrels. And again, if we pump that just from U.S. sources, in other words, we didn't import any oil, we'd run out of oil in 8 years and 8 months. Since even 8 years and 8 months of oil is not nearly enough, we need a hybrid plan. So this is the current version of the Drill Baby Drill plan. Due to its sensitivity, it will not be released until February 2009. That's why you have not heard anything about it not only until now, but you won't hear anything about it until after the election. So the goal of this plan is to move the nation away from dependence on foreign oil in a phased fashion. You've heard this many, many times stated during the campaign. Phase 1 is to raise the federal gasoline tax from 18 cents per gallon to $3.18 per gallon. So the result of this will be that the gasoline and therefore crude oil usage will drop by about 30%. Gasoline prices will rise to about $6 per gallon. The additional tax revenue from this will be $290 billion. An enormous amount of an additional tax money will come in. A portion of the $290 billion will be used to provide an income-adjusted tax credit for people to adjust to this big change. The tax credit will probably be phased in, or will probably last for about 4 years to allow people to adjust to this change and get into cars that use less fuel. Phase 2 would apply to passenger cars and trucks. It would be a surcharge of $5,000 for the sale of a vehicle with a 6-cylinder engine, $10,000 for the sale of a vehicle with an 8-cylinder engine, and then even higher surcharges for 10-cylinder or more engines, which are mostly sports cars. And again, there would be tax credits coming out of that $290 billion to assist people initially with a conversion. The expectation is that phases 1 and 2 would push the U.S. average automobile mileage close to Europe's, which is this 43 miles per gallon. Phase 3 would be to implement the same tax and excess profit tax provisions on all oil pumped in the U.S. that has been implemented so successfully by Governor Palin in Alaska. The additional federal revenue from this would be $61 billion per year at current pumping rates. That's a recurring $61 billion per year. At an average mileage of 43 miles per gallon for an average car, the annual crude oil consumption would be 2.95 billion barrels of oil per year. So of that 2.95 billion barrels total, 1.85 billion barrels is the current U.S. production of oil out of the U.S. itself. So that leaves a deficit of 1.1 barrels that we would have to import. But if you look at where we import oil from, 0.69 billion barrels is imported from Canada, 0.51 billion barrels are imported from Mexico. So that's 1.2 billion barrels of oil, which actually exceeds this 1.1 billion barrel deficit. Those two countries alone are enough to overcome this deficit and give us more than the 2.95 barrels that we need. So those barrels could be considered to come from friendly countries. I don't think anyone would disagree that Canada and Mexico, sharing borders with the United States, are really friendly countries. So the conclusion then is that the problem has been solved. No longer are we dependent on unfriendly countries for crude oil. Phase 4 would be the classified portion of this plan, and you would not see this publicly. 0.53 billion barrels of oil are imported by the U.S. per year from Saudi Arabia. 0.40 billion barrels are imported per year from Nigeria. A little less than 1 billion barrels per year in total. But that's not the important thing. The total annual oil production from both countries, Saudi Arabia and Nigeria, to the world amounts to over 4 billion barrels per year. Now, their total oil production is 4 billion barrels per year. U.S. military action, long planned, would instantly solve all previously discussed problems. Hopefully everybody understands what that statement means. Phase 5. Begin the construction of new nuclear reactors quickly. The best design appears to be the HTGR design, high temperature gas reactor. This is primarily hot gas flowing around graphite. There's no water to leak, explode, etc. All previous reactors in the United States and in most countries have water in there, either under high pressure or boiling. And that's the kind of thing that explodes, leaks, causes trouble, and that's the bad feelings most people have about nuclear reactors. This reactor design takes that problem away and is generally everybody's favorite. The states targeted for the first reactors are Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and North Carolina. This attacks the U.S. pollution problem most efficiently, which is the East Coast center of gravity of pollution, most of it caused by coal being burned for electricity on the East Coast. And that's why Phase 5 would concentrate the initial nuclear reactors in these areas. And as you know, Senator McCain has been a proponent of nuclear power for a long time. That's the end of the discussion of this plan.